Well, I'd like to discuss today, once again, hunting knives for bushcraft. And keep in mind that, when we're talking about a lot of this stuff for this series, I have other videos on this, hunting knives for bushcraft. We're not looking at a one-tool option. I don't really agree with that to begin with, but that's definitely not what we're talking about here. We're talking about hunting knives that cross over well into bushcraft. Into your everyday type of camp chores and things like that. We're not talking about knives that are such great wedges you can, virtually split, 6-inch rounds with religiously. We're also not talking about knives that are just superbly great at caping. These are knives that are sort of a jack of all trades, really. Their premise is hunting, but they do cross over well. You can work some wood. They can be a good camp knife, food prep, things like that, making your tent pegs and your notches and these different things. And you'll find that most of the time, the knives that are good in this are going to be more of your heavy hunter style knives. Now, I've reviewed the Buck 119, the Blackjack Model 125, the Puma Stag Bowie, made in Solingen, Germany. Okay, these are heavier style hunting knives. The knife I have here today is the old Hickory, okay, made in USA, 1095 steel. This is the old Hickory 5.5-inch hunting knife. This knife here is very nice. It's very good. One of the things that you will notice is that because of its thinness, we will give up a little bit when it comes to doing some splitting and things like that. Now, because I don't roll with the one-tool option, I rarely find the need to have to split with my belt knife. In general, I rarely find the need to split wood to begin with. And if I have to, I would just make a wedge, and especially for this knife. The grind on this knife is actually quite nice. It's a good, generous height on that final grind there, and because of that, it really allows you to bite into wood very good. It does plane wood actually exceptionally well, really. Also, because of that, and because of this, the steel itself and the geometry. Remember, geometry trumps everything, right? It determines the functionality of the heat treatment of the steel. The geometry of this lends itself very, very well to slicing tasks, as you can see. Okay. It also, being 1075, I know that they used to be made in 1095, but Ontario Knives has since done away with that. But still, we're still talking great steel. Many do prefer it. It can be slightly, more of maybe a little bit more toughness. We're talking about ease of sharpening in the field. You're going to have to sharpen your knife at some point. Whether you have 3V or S30V or unobtainium, whatever it is, you're going to have to sharpen your knife at some point. If you only go out for, a day or two, maybe with a higher end steel, you might not have to sharpen it that day. But at some point, you're going to get caught out there. If you're going out enough, or if it's an emergency situation and you've got to get out, you're going to have to sharpen that knife. And if that knife requires tools and systems that you need a bench for, or these different things, or it takes a long time, you're going to have a hard time with it. And you'll notice working people's knives, i.e. butchers, wood carvers, and these things, they still use high carbon steel. And there is a reason for that. The other great thing about this, when we're talking about a knife crossing well over into bushcraft, is some believe that some of the criteria, and I tend to agree with this, for a bushcraft knife is the ability to throw a spark with a piece of flint. And this knife does it well. The knife comes pretty much at a 90-degree angle on the spine there. so there's no issues in terms of throwing a spark from a ferrocerium rod. You can also easily file this down or put it on a belt sander and 90 that even more, and it would work even better. You can scrape your tinders and those things, and it does seem to throw sparks a little bit better when you have that 90 on there, that bit of a burr, because you'll actually flake pieces off of that burr to ignite the fire. And of course, the pieces that you hit when you're striking with the flint are opposite to the edge you're scraping, so you'll still have that nice scraping edge. Of course, there's no guard on there, which many bushcraft purists prefer. We got handle scales here. I don't know how much I trust some of these handle scales. Sometimes if I squeeze quite hard, I can feel a tiny bit of movement, but there's a lot of people who, one, because of the price of the knife, and just because of the easiness of dismantling this, people take this apart, epoxy it, rivet it down again, put on different scales, whatever you want to do. Once again, hunting knives for bushcraft. We got the Ontario 5.5-inch hunting knife. Stay tuned. We'll talk about it a little bit more.